everyone. So I am in Savannah, Georgia. This is during all of the hullabaloo with Hurricane Milton, and we decided, my wife Courtney and I decided that it was important that we evacuated. We took our cats and we got out of town. We headed up to Savannah, Georgia for the hurricane. And since I'm here, and even though there's hurricane conditions down in Florida, it is a bright sunny day here in Savannah, Georgia. So I thought I would walk around downtown a little bit and show you some of the sights. Turn lemons into lemonade. Behind me right here is the Green Meldrum home, which served as General Sherman's headquarters after his famous March to the Sea that really was the death knell of the Confederate forces in the Civil War. It now serves as the rectory for St. John's Episcopal Church here right across from Madison Square. But this was the main place that I wanted to come visit here in Savannah because I just have incredible respect for General Sherman and the way he was not going to lose when it came to his march to the sea. Burned down Georgia, cut off supply lines, freed slaves, and made sure that not only was he going to get the Union Army to the sea, but that nobody was going to be able to come up behind him and cut off the forces because there were just no supplies. He destroyed any resources that they weren't going to use and made sure that there was no way that the Confederate Army was going to rebound from that. And what he did in an effort to, like I said, he freed slaves. He just made sure that the South was not going to be able to rebound and fight back anymore. And just an amazing human being, a great person from U.S. history. Even though he fought in the Seminole Wars in Florida, he later went on to say that he really wished he hadn't and thought they were unjust, and the way that the United States was treating the Native Americans was unfair. Great figure from American history, and this is where he kind of took command of Georgia from this building right here. In 2015, my wife Courtney and I moved from Pennsylvania to Arizona. Of course, a few years later, we moved from Arizona to Florida. But on the trip from Pennsylvania to Arizona, I drove some of our stuff while Courtney flew the cats to Arizona and started her new job. I did a cross-country road trip so I could carry more of our stuff, and I actually, before moving across the country, wanted to visit my mother in Florida. We actually ended up going to Walt Disney World for a few days. But on the drive from Pennsylvania down to Florida, I ended up, ironically enough, driving through a hurricane. Go back and look, early October of 2015. I don't remember the name of the hurricane, but it hit South Carolina, and it hit South Carolina hard. And I drove overnight through that hurricane in my Prius, and I ended up stopping really early in the morning here in Savannah, Georgia. I got a breakfast buffet and then came here for an early mass at this church here in Savannah, Georgia. So I have some like personal history here. I was a mess. I was in ratty clothes. I mean, I'm in ratty clothes now because we just brought stuff. I mean, it's not ratty, it's a Dodgers shirt, but we're just in lazy lounge around the hotel room clothes. But even though I was dressed like that and it was a Sunday morning mass, everybody was dressed to the nines, it was actually really nice how nice everyone was to me, how accepting they were. When I told them that I drove through the hurricane, there were people who were offering to let me go to their house and take a nap before I continued on the road. It was a really, really great experience. I wish I could say the breakfast buffet was the same, but I think I was so tired that the guy there thought I was drunk and he was like keeping an eye on me the whole time. But anyway, just a little part from my personal history. There's a lot of history attached to this church in general, but it's kind of ironic that every time I've come here, maybe it's not ironic, it's more like a coincidence. Every time I come here, it's sort of as a refuge from a hurricane. So sometimes when I do history videos or videos that deal a little bit more with history, I have to do a lot of caveats, and just reading this guy's plate, it seems like he was important in the Revolutionary War, but judging by the fact that he fled the French West Indies during the slave revolt makes me think he probably wasn't the best dude overall. But I can do a little more research into him, and anytime, you know, I show something, there are a ton of history markers in this cemetery. I can't actually enter the cemetery right now, it's closed for the day. But anytime I show these people, like, feel free to do your own research. I'm just showing plaques and, you know, grave sites and things like that. I'm not, a lot of the time, yeah, with figures like Sherman and some of the bigger known figures, or ones that I just happen to have a lot of knowledge. But here I was just walking down the street and I saw a history marker, so I thought I would take note. Lachlan McIntosh was an incredibly interesting figure, a military and political leader during the American Revolution. He was born in Scotland and had originally opposed the introduction of slavery into the Georgia colony. In 1777, he fatally shot Button Gwinnett, a signer of the Declaration of Independence, in a duel. Because of the ramifications of that duel, General George Washington was afraid to leave him in Georgia, so he called him up to Valley Forge in 1777 and 1778. There is just a ton of interesting stuff surrounding this gentleman, so if you want to research him, his name is Lachlan McIntosh. He died in 1806 and is buried in Savannah, Georgia. So obviously, as you're going to be able to read in the description here on this sign, there's a lot of negative history with this building. However, there is a little bit of positive history as well. The Marquis de Lafayette actually did a farewell tour to the United States when he was 67, and he stayed in this building here. So it definitely does have a difficult past, as you could read there, but the Marquis de Lafayette, who fought alongside George Washington for U.S. independence, but also was very instrumental in the French Revolution. So very, very interesting. When I was driving into town earlier today, I saw Leopold's. It had a huge long line outside, and I was like, well, if it has that kind of line, the ice cream must be really, really good. It was pretty good. It was a little pricey. It was $10, and they said the wait was going to be 20 minutes, and it ended up being more like 30, 35 minutes. So in retrospect, maybe I shouldn't have done it, but you know what? YOLO, right? I don't know how many more times I'm going to be in Savannah, Georgia, so I got to try something I wouldn't normally try. I got the peanut butter chippy, which was the type of ice cream that I got, a double scoop and on a waffle cone. Came out to $10 even. And now I think I'm going to make one stop here. I'm just going to pull up to the place with my car, and then I'm going to go back to the hotel and rest for the evening. Tomorrow, I believe, is the day that we are going to make the trek back to Florida, see what kind of damage is at our house, see what we're dealing with when we get there. So this was nice to sort of relax, do a little, you know, vacation style thing before we have to go back and visit the real world. What a week, man, what a week. So I'm gonna stop at one more spot and then head back to the hotel. This is Chippewa Park in Savannah, Georgia, and it doesn't look like all that much special right now. It is just like, you know, half a block of trees. There's a statue in the middle and some benches. However, there was a bench that used to be here. That was the infamous or famous bench from the movie Forrest Gump. This was where Forrest sat on a bench and told the story in Forrest Gump. The actual bench where Tom Hanks was sitting in the movie is now in a museum. But the park is still here, and people do come here to take pictures. So that's kind of cool. Just a little bit of pop culture history right here. I'm not even parking, I'm not even walking out. I just sort of pulled to the side of the road here and am showing you it very quickly. In case you were wondering, we were actually incredibly lucky when we came home and we entered our apartment. We had power, we even had internet. I was able to actually watch the Dodgers game that night on television. So we were safe, our cats were safe, we didn't lose any possessions. Actually, we were able to keep everything that was in the freezer, but we did lose most of the stuff that was in the refrigerator because there were some power outages and we just wanted to make sure everything was okay. But we were hit a lot worse than people in the direct area around us, so we're very grateful for that. Do me a favor, like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon.